lol. I know the feeling. The federal government, the Washington crowd, and corporate media based in Washington and New York see the country in wholly partisan terms. Republican versus Democrat, red versus blue, old media versus social media, liberal versus conservative, right versus left, straight versus gay, and on. Charlie Kirk's assassination in Utah should remind us of the actual diversity of the nation and of the cost of polarization that demonizes the other side. Hasan, they're all chasers. No, I know. There's a lot of people who there's a lot of people who are chasers and whatnot. That's not what I'm talking about, right? But someone, basically my point is his politics are all over the place in the sense that he's just apolitical for the most part, but also doesn't think gay and trans people are evil, which is one of the most that's half the fucking conservatives that are not online and they're not on Twitter. Half the people that voted for Donald Trump, if you ask them, do you think gay people are evil? They'd be like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Not the 30% base that's firmly committed to the movement, but there's a lot of people who feel this way as well. This isn't to say that this guy wasn't fucking, this guy wasn't someone who could be profiled as lib left kind of, a lib left kind of person, right? But yeah, Ken Leakenstein exclusive leak message from Charlie Kirk. Politics is not what the government and media say. Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. Thus, Tyler Robinson messaged his friends on Discord, seemingly apologizing for murdering Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry for all of this. I obtained this and other Discord chats I've decided to publish. The legacy news media, as usual, refuses, along with new information I've learned about Robinson from the people who knew him best. I just saw the video. Holy shit. RIP, I guess. Bro didn't deserve to go out like that. Sad. Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a... Wait, what the fuck? Oh, usernames are redacted because I know what his username is. This is not what his username is. I have his Discord username. This is not it. Anyway, it's not Zealous Monkey 55095. He changed it. Okay, Ken changed it for this article. Wait, what? He's saying this is the username? Wait, what the fuck? He has multiple. I have 2 Discord usernames. This is not the one I had. Wait, I'm gonna text him. Hold on. What the frick? Hold on. That's strange. Server based. I know he had multiple usernames. There's another in the article. You had his username for Hoscord? He wasn't in Hoscord, you fucking idiot. I'm texting Ken. Anyway, so Ken has one of the usernames, he says, and it's possible the New York Times is a different one, or all these other outlets have different usernames. Anyway, hey guys, I have bad news for y'all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything. Trump and company portray the alleged Utah as left wing and liberals portray him as right wing. The federal conclusion will inevitably be that he was a so-called nihilist violent extremist, NVE. Meanwhile, the crackdown has already begun. As I reported yesterday, the country's practically ready to go to war. It's been so terrible, and seeing it from an inside perspective is so frustrating. A friend of Robinson since middle school told me, the childhood friend who asked not to be named for fear of threats, provided me with the above non-public photo of Robinson on a camping trip, a favorite activity of his, to corroborate their relationship. I think the main thing that's caused so much confusion is that he was always generally apolitical for the most part, the friend told me. That's the big thing. It's so frustrating. The picture that emerges bears little resemblance to the media version. Robinson, I am told, though quiet, was a well-liked person with a supportive family. The friend group who he interacted with on Discord, far from some kind of militia camp or Antifa bunker it's been portrayed as, represented a range of different political views, but mostly talked video games. Yesterday, FBI Director Kash Patel said in an interview that Robinson subscribed to left-wing ideology, citing his family's remarks to the investigators. But those close to Robinson say there was a lot his family didn't know about him. Their ideas are based on someone they didn't fully understand, the childhood friend told me. Though the family was generally supportive of Robinson, a claim corroborated by his mother's Facebook account, brimming with praise for Tyler, they didn't seem to know about his relationship with a transgender person named Lance, the friend said. When I asked if his family would have been accepting, the friend replied, I don't think even Tyler knew the answer to that question, which is why he kept it so low-key between themselves. Tyler's bisexuality, the friend said, was coupled with an openness on LGBT issues. But his wasn't some cookie-cutter lefty position on every other, or even most issues, his friends say. Obviously, he's okay with gay and trans people having a right to exist, but also believes in the Second Amendment, the friend said, referring to the right to bear arms. The friend described, which again, that doesn't mean that this person is not like a leftist either, for the record. These kinds of things don't immediately don't immediately reveal your position, okay? Just so you understand. The friend described Robinson as a fairly typical of a young man from his age from Utah, someone who loved the outdoors, was a gamer, and to all of us, he just seemed like a simple guy who liked playing games like Sea of Thieves, Deep Rock Galactic, and Helldivers 2, loved to fish and loved the camp, the friend said. It didn't really seem like that's all he was about. Helldivers 2, Into the Unjust Deep Dive, one step closer to finding the DRG dwarves. The phrase inscribed on one of the bullet cases from the Hey Fascist Catch, though widely reported to mean he was a man of the left, is in fact a reference to the Helldivers 2 game. The three arrows, initially believed by federal agents to be a reference to Antifa, is also a reference to the Helldivers. Private Discord messages shared with me by a friend of Robinson's can confirm Robinson wasn't some political martyr. A search of posts for Robinson's containing keywords like Biden and Trump turned up with just one hit each. The Trump post was a passing reference to the 2019 impeachment inquiry. The Biden one came on a day after the 2020 election, where he provided an update to another friend asking about the status of the vote count. An impeachment inquiry has been placed against Donald Trump. He could get booted out if they find he committed the shit he's accused of. Who's winning the election? You would know, one of his friends asked Tyler Robinson. Biden is in the lead electoral votes-wise, but there are still some swing states that haven't finished voting, as well as most of the West Coast. Raw votes, Donald is in the lead by a little over 1 million votes. Who is probably going to win? He says, I'm not sure. When will we know? Not until pretty late, but we should have a pretty good idea by the end of the night, unless it's really close or something. He says, K. The childhood friend is a member of multiple Discord chats with Robinson. He described the group as trying to grapple with Robinson's motive, just like everyone else. Even the goodbye message he sent in one of our servers where Discord chats were hosted was so hard to believe. We all just thought, what a weird joke to make. Then the news came out and we were all calling each other saying, check the news. He said, yeah, I don't know what makes a person like him decide he's going to drive 260 miles upstate to shoot someone like Charlie Kirk, then come back like nothing happened. It leaves a lot of room for speculation and theories, which is why I think they're so rampant. Part of the confusion he attributes to Tyler's quiet nature. He was a really smart guy, but super hard to read, stone cold poker face, and you could always never be confident assuming anything. When I asked if he opened up to anyone, the friend replied, as far as we knew, he was open. As far as we knew, he was opened up. What does that even mean? Despite his verbal reticence, Robinson was not a loner, according to his friends. Unlike the stereotypical outcast driven to violence. Oh, they're saying he was opened up. I guess that's all they knew. They thought they knew him. He was apparently amiable and well-liked. Everyone who knew him liked him. Remember when I said that even on a cursory glance of the like profile, he doesn't actually fit the bill in the same way that like Luigi Mangione doesn't fit the bill of stereotypical demonstrating antisocial personality disordered behavior, loners, alienated, isolated from friends and family, sometimes finding themselves deep in the precipice of like online radicalization through like Discord servers all the way to Telegram and stuff like that. This guy straight up is just like as normal as you can be, which by the way, I think is this right here. The fact that this is as normal as you can get, and someone who, as a matter of fact, had a bright future, as someone would say, right? That is unique when you look at the rest of the school people engaging in like any sort of violence like this. And I think that's reflective of the times changing. Like it's more so, yes, as this chatter says, an indictment on the state of affairs, right? Because you got weirdos doing violence. Obviously, there are things that we can legislate to try and limit the amount of ultra violence that we experience on a daily basis. But when you got like a radical, centrist, apolitical guy with a bright future ahead, all of a sudden when they're doing stuff like this, and if it's like even with Luigi as well, like people who are well-liked, people who have a social life, all of a sudden when that happens, like that is interesting. Anyway, regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is a living and loving God who loves all his children. A Discord post from another friend posted the day after the reads, while Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I asked that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Yeah, like if this was like an Antifa Discord server and the way that these guys were presenting it, they'd be like, fuck you. God isn't real. There'd be like 8 people in there yelling about how even you invoking the name of God triggers me because I'm an atheist. And then they would like all yell at the person and probably find they'd be like, we need a new splinter Discord group away from these freaks, you know? I think this is a pattern with white cis lately. Middle class experience hardship, realize it's affecting their marginalized their marginalized friends most and not being able to process it is the IRL version of just found out about racism. That shit sucks. I mean, there's not really any other evidence of this. This is the first of its kind. I wouldn't even say that that's the same with like Luigi Mangione, because Luigi Mangione obviously was like impacted, harmed by healthcare, like the privatization of healthcare. He was impacted personally, and then that is the reason why he allegedly planned the shooting of UHC CEO Brian Thompson. Okay. Hey everyone, if you have not seen the news yet, Tyler's post above, it true. He was taken into custody earlier today for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment and remember that God is a living and loving God who loves all his children. While Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I ask that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Love you all. God bless. The last message is religious in nature, which just goes to show the apolitical nature of the server. We all have pretty differing views on politics, the friend said of the Discord post. We all just exist as friends and just play stuff. Cat memes, weather updates, home improvement, and the odd Garfield reference populate Robinson's post. I'm going to eep pretty soon. Very eepy, he said in one post. An intentionally silly misspelling of the word sleep, a common Gen Z convention. He was bedbug general, bedbug inspector. Another John Arbuckle appears. It says gullible on the ceiling. Cat memes. Screenshot of another Discord chat where Robinson went by the username bedbudge inspector. Spring in New Hampshire. Spring in southern Utah. Had to replace a monitor that was on a wall mount. The top two mounting points needed to have a standoff, but the person who did the initial install didn't have them, so they just stacked like 8 washers to make a connection. Lol. I know the feeling. The federal government, the Washington crowd, and corporate media based in Washington and New York see the country in wholly partisan terms. Republican versus Democrat, red versus blue, old media versus social media, liberal versus conservative, right versus left, straight versus gay, and on. Charlie Kirk's assassination in Utah should remind us of the actual diversity of the nation and of the cost of polarization that demonizes the other side. No one in Robinson's group is cheering or justifying the murder in any of the messages I reviewed. They're just struggling to understand what their friend did. But Washington has become obsessed with the Discord chat, convinced it's some kind of headquarters for the cauldron of radicalization and conspiracy. Today, FBI Director Patel vowed to investigate anyone and everyone in that Discord chat. Yeah, this is also another unfortunate byproduct of having like extremely offline boomers or online boomers that are online in the worst ways possible, because they like their only understanding is like Facebook posts or whatever. Trying to investigate this and trying to find like why this took place, right? And they obviously are completely unequipped to do so, and therefore, like, it's crazy how mild this dude's Discord profile is. Okay? It is insane. I cannot comprehend it. Like, unless he was living a double life as like some kind of political radical, like the act that he took, the act that he engaged in is so radical that when you look at his fucking Discord profile, it gives me whiplash. Like, this is the most like normal fucking guy that did such an abnormal thing. What I see is a bunch of young people shocked, horrified, and searching for answers like the rest of the country. Yeah, remember what I talked about with like spontaneous the stabbing that took place on the subway against the Ukrainian refugee. Like, that's a really terrifying thing for a lot of people, because like it's truly, utterly senseless. It doesn't have any sort of like logical reasoning behind it. Like, there's no logical through line, right? This is not a justification of that, obviously, but there's no logical through line to the actions of the in that situation. So like, it terrifies people because it's truly and utterly unpredictable, and therefore there's not even any sort of like there's no security standard that you can apply in that circumstance. And this kind of feels like that, in the way that like, if there was at least some sort of like logical through line here with respect to this person's actions, like, or his radicalization, there's at least something you can point to about where, like how he arrived at this position, right? How he arrived at this position. But there is nothing, it seems, at least from what we have seen from his profile, that indicates that, right? If you want the new messages in writing, they show it at page 8 on the indictment. Yeah, we'll take a look at the indictment. Obviously, this is what we wanted to see. Notice is bulge ovo. That's the letters on the casings. The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to police. I suspect that, I mean, this is the girlfriend who is trans. That's the reason why they're saying a biological male. This is also another one of those problems with like not correctly classifying things for political purposes that make it a little bit confusing. So you have to like read between the lines, I assume. What's the evidence this person is trans? Other people have stated this. Like they look through the person's Reddit profile. Like they were in a lot of DIY HRT subreddits, things of that nature. Like things that you wouldn't. I don't think things you would do unless you were. Not some people are saying. Okay, it's. Before the roommate segment, they talked about how his family confronted him. Yeah. Look, here. Robinson's mother stated the following to the police. On September 11th, the day after Robinson's mother saw the photo in the news and thought they looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was home. He was at home sick and that he had also been at home sick on September 10th. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her father. The suspect looked like Robinson. Robinson's father agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members. So, like, one thing you have to understand is, like, put yourself in the mindset of, like, a Mormon mom in fucking Utah, okay? When you, from their perspective, like, Tyler Robinson became woke, okay? All of a sudden, they think like he got radicalized into being woke, which is again like a fairly normal position to be like, yeah, I don't, I think it's fine. I'm pro-gay and pro-trans rights. Like it doesn't matter to me. It's not that big of a fucking deal. So that is like the reason why that's being presented as woke is because the right want to make the most normal position that one can have, which is to not just like have unlimited hatred in your heart for trans and gay people. They want to present that as like a woke position. It's not a woke position. It's just like a normal position. That's it. Like that's not. Anyway, of course, for a Mormon MAGA family, probably not. Right? How is having sex with a trans girl not woke? I mean, it's like asking me how is having sex with a black girl not woke? Okay. Depending on which family you're talking about, they could consider that to be woke, okay? That's my point. Do you not understand? Also, there are mad chasers that are right-wing as well. Alex Jones is a fucking chaser. Nick Fuentes is a chaser. What are we talking about? There's hella fucking right-wing people that are chasers too. So it doesn't even like give you a consistent ideological profile in that regard. Also, this is Gen Z. Mad Gen Z is gay, bisexual, pansexual, whatever the fuck, okay? So from that standard, even the most right-wing are woke, okay? But they're not. Anyway, this goes back to the insane standard that I was applying here, though, okay? Yeah, I get called woke for dating a white person as a Muslim, Lamau. Nick isn't a chaser, he's just gay. Sorry, I fucked it up. He's not a chaser. He just into cat boys and went on a date with a cat boy because he's gay. Yeah. Now it's woke to fuck a woman. We may now fuck men. Exactly. It's woke, dude. It's woke. How are you gonna... Ew, dude. You're gonna fuck a pussy? Gross. You're gonna... What? Be around a woman? That is woke, dog. Real men fuck men. Anyway. Yeah, that's gay as hell to have sex with a woman. Yuck. Gross. Be a real man. Fuck men only. All right. Anyway, where were we? Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be pro-gay, dated. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. Now, this doesn't make a lot of sense because, like, it seems like Tyler Robinson was also sheltering their family from this information. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle the police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. However, Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson, and Robinson implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. As they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there's too much evil and the guy Charlie Kirk spreads too much hate. They talked about Robinson turning himself in and convinced Robinson to speak with a family friend who was a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Robinson to turn himself in. The family friend spoke to police and reported telling Robinson that it would be best if he brought all the evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. The family friend also asked Robinson if he had any clothes that were related to what he did. Robinson replied that he had disposed of the clothes in different areas. So then we get into the roommate, but the parents' suspicion is that the roommate is trans, right? Which still, which of course corresponds to like all of the assessments made by other people about the roommate's Reddit profile, which was, definitely the profile of someone who was in the process of engaging in gender confirmation, transitioning, right? DIY HRT subreddits, things of that nature, from what I understand, according to Liv Agar's assessment. So then we get to the roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male, a trans woman, who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting and provided those messages to the police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you are doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. Oh, that's how they found the note. So that's not even a fucking manifesto. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right? I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep the secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. You weren't the one who did it, right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the fuck will I explain it, losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The fucking messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge you vu on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really fucking sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Robinson, delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. You are all I worry about, love. I'm much more worried about you, says the roommate. Don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. Bro assassinated Charlie Kirk, but was still scared of what his dad has to say. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That gives you a little bit of the mindset of this person who like that in and of itself kind of feels like this dude is not this radical Antifa fucking super soldier type shit. You know what I mean? He didn't think it all the way through in a way. Bro, he literally fucking clear, dude, he has no OPSEC whatsoever. All of this obviously is like zero OPSEC. Not only that, but he planned it in a week, which sounds insane. Like in 1 week, he was like, oh shit, Charlie Kirk's coming to my neighborhood. That's terrifying. Low key. Not even low key. That is high key terrifying that like someone could just like find out that a public speaker who is a political commentator is coming to your neighborhood, and it takes 1 week for them to basically decide, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna plan it out and basically almost get away with it too. Like, it's crazy. I guess it was also understandable that he was afraid of his dad, because the reality of the matter is the gun, if he had actually gotten the gun, he could have probably told his dad like, oh no, I have the gun right here. You know what I mean? So considering that his family turned him in, he wasn't wrong to be worried about that part. It wasn't even his neighborhood. It was like 200 plus miles away. I know. But like their state. From my perspective, I will say this much. I do a lot of events. I'm outside all the time. I'm around other people all the time. I'm in public all the time. I go to fucking chaotic situations. I go to fucking rallies and shit. And the only time where I feel a sense of danger is when I'm in like red states. The only time I've had like any fucked interactions while doing like IRL streams, for example, have been in red states, whether it be Nevada or whether it be Texas, even in blue areas in red states, right? Because of that reason, people do drive hundreds of miles to do like fuck shit, right? So count 6 is him telling his roommate to listen to her rights and ask for a lawyer. Yeah. So his prefrontal cortex won't be fully developed for 2 more years. Planning, decision-making, self-awareness, risk assessment. The people in blue states are too high to be driving that far for anything. I mean, it can happen anywhere. I'm just like, I'm looking at a game of chance here, okay? Witness tampering pertains to Robinson's statement to his roommate, telling the roommate, if any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. I don't know if that's technically witness tampering. Deleting the text message exchange is witness tampering, but saying stay silent and you know, call a lawyer, that's not witness. Is that witness tampering? The deletion of the text message, like the demands for deletion of the text message, does make sense as witness tampering. That is absolutely witness tampering. But yeah, it's interesting because when you look at the charges and you look at all the evidence that has been presented thus far, I don't know how the fucking right-wingers are going to operate. Low-key a hero in this story, like one of the good people in this story, even from the right-wing assessment, right? So that hasn't stopped people from obviously saying like this is Trantifa, but so he wasn't a groyper. I told you, I don't think that it was too early to make an assessment. I mean, you could still be like a lover with a trans person and be groyper, but like there isn't enough here to suggest that he's a groyper. Okay. That's why I told you, like, it's important to make honest assessments no matter what, even if it's like, even if there's a prevailing narrative. And I think for a lot of people, it won't even matter. I think for a lot of people, they will go along with, depending on their partisan framework here, depending on what they were predisposed to believe. You have no idea if the boyfriend was involved or not, Lamau. Wait, what? The boyfriend? You mean the trans girlfriend? I mean, that the evidence that we just read shows that not only was this person cooperating with law enforcement, but like the evidence itself that they have on hand shows that they were not fucking involved. I love this guy, man. I love conservatives. This is what I mean. This is what I fucking mean. Dudes will just be like, nah, it can't be the white boy that did it. Must have been the trans person. Must have been the trans person somehow. You know? Yeah, but the left does the same thing. What do you mean? Guys, stop doing vague posting. Just say what you fucking mean, please. Okay? It's okay. You can say what you mean, even if it's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Trust me, there are plenty of stupid things that people say in this chat. Okay? Sorry, but I don't believe their evidence. Okay. Fine. Fair. ACP? Was he an ACP member, Jackson, Hinkle, and Haas? No, I don't think he was an ACP member. I don't think this dude is even like anything but, this dude didn't even vote for the Democrats, man. The fuck are we talking about? He's not like, it shouldn't be that hard for men. God, if you're in this community, I understand why. If you're in this community, I understand why it's so difficult for you to, what is this? Okay. It's hard for you to comprehend if you're in a fucking highly politicized community such as this one, for you to go, there is no way this person has like no decipherable political tendency, no ideological tendency, no ideological leaning. I know. Okay. I understand that because you are insanely political. But what you have to realize is the overwhelming majority of people in this country do not have the same kind of perspective that you do. Okay? They don't know anything. They don't care about anything. There is nothing that's like decipherable from the perspective of like political radicalization, even though what he did is unique in the sense that you would expect the profile, the ideological profile, to be very clear. Okay? It genuinely seems like this dude was a straight up, just a bisexual, chronically online politics normie who decided to do the unthinkable after figuring out that the figurehead for anti-LGBT was coming to a state. Yes. But even from that perspective, like it still doesn't make sense, because the final act here is the act that you would expect from someone who is a radical, right? So one must ask the question, how we got to a position where like an apolitical dude who's just a gamer who like traffics in memes and whatnot could do such a radical act, like take someone's life, right? And that's the reason why I said, judging by what I knew at the time when I wrote the New York Times op-ed, looking at the shooter's profile, where I clearly stated to all of you, and many people in this community fucking got mad at me as well, that this doesn't have the makings of like a hyper radicalized, groiper or anything like that when those narratives were being flung around. The reason why I said that is because I know the profile, shooter profiles of people that get radicalized in different parts of the internet. I know the profile of someone who could potentially be a left-wing shooter and what they would do and what they would say in this process. Okay? This is why my initial assessment was one that stated, look, as I said, Tyler Robinson Kirk's alleged shooter came from a Mormon family, both law enforcement and military, but I'm not so certain if he himself was right-wing. A lot of memes posted on casings are ironic or of the left variety, different than previous far-right shooters. It's too soon to tell, but this is very important to understand as well. We're talking about like the Groiper angle. Feel like you don't do this unless you're in some right-wing nihilistic brain-rotted spaces. Yeah, I saw that as well. He was talking about like the Gopnik posting. I don't know how to weigh that over the Chow Bella, though. Like, that could be Gopnik posting, which is across the political spectrum. Need more info. Groypers usually hail previous shooters and have way more aggressive slogans they use to signal. Are you saying that a normal guy just did it? That's terrifying. Yeah, no. Yes. What is Gopnik posting? Like, he was doing a Slav squat. And it's not even a normal guy that did it. Okay? It's not even a normal guy that did it. It's also, like, what's normal about him? It's good stock in the way that conservatives would say. This person comes from a close family, has relationships with people, is not alienated, is not isolated, has not demonstrated antisocial personality disorders, okay? Is in constant contact with other people. 4.0 GPA, Mormon family, okay? That is the reason why a lot of right-wingers, when they saw that background, immediately went, oh shit, this doesn't fucking fit the profile of like anything that we've seen. Oppressive conservative family plus gun culture plus nihilistic on the value of life. Yeah, it's like it feels like it's like a situation where like you shoot a high profile conservative public speaker because you're fucking bored. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think he did it for the memes necessarily. I understand why all of the law enforcement, regardless of their fucking biases, regardless of the fact that they're trying to present this as like a clear-cut indication, a clear-cut instance of like, Antifa-style radicalized violence or anything. But like when you look at the background, the evidence that we have so far of the shooter's background, it does make sense as to why one could look at that and say he is like, quote unquote woke or of the lib left variety. And the reason why I say that is because depending on how biased you are, depending on how right wing you are, depending on like from the perspective of a Utah Mormon family, yes, like if you have a trans roommate that you're romantically involved in, that's the most woke you can be. There's the most woke person on the planet from their perspective, you know? Some hate cannot be negotiated will absolutely be used to demonize trans ideology. I mean, I think that's a constant no matter what. And yes, I did go through Ken Klippenstein's profile. Thoughts on him being maybe one of those nihilist accelerationism guys? No, I don't think so. No. I told you that Like, not a groyper, not super radical, which is so crazy to say because the act in and of itself is radical. But the reason why I say it doesn't seem like that is because those guys can't shut the fuck up about their politics, both on the left and the right, okay? Some of you on the left are in here. You can never stop talking about how you're actually a Maoist third worldist and everyone is actually a part of the fucking imperial core, America, using Maoist standard English. And on the right, it's even more fucking annoying. If you're like of the far right tendency, you literally will never shut the fuck up. Look at the Minneapolis shooter that went into the church. Everyone was like, that's a trans Antifa person. Fuck no, he wasn't. You want to know why I know he wasn't a fucking trans Antifa person? He had hung out with like the AK guy on YouTube. He literally fucking wrote high profile far right figures' names on his gear. Like, he was very clearly a nihilist, accelerationist, esoteric, neo-Nazi style shooter, many of which exist in society, many of which have actually engaged in fucking acts of ultra violence over and over and over again. Doesn't matter if the media fucking claims that they're actually leftists or whatever, right? Same with the recent Colorado shooter that actually shot up his school, literally as Charlie Kirk had been shot at Utah. How is this a radical act? He is at best a lib. Sorry, I'm just confused by the terminology. The reason why I say it's a radical act is because killing someone is a radical act, okay? Devoid of political background. It's just you shoot someone and you kill someone. That's a radical fucking act. What do you mean? He shot someone one shot straight to the cartord, like straight to the fucking neck. That's as radical as it's going to get, okay? It doesn't get more radical than that. It's a high-profile political assassination. It's more personal than political, like Luigi, an intelligent normie. His description is almost Sigma from his friends with a single cause after falling in love with his roommate. Labels don't do the investigation any good. Sorry for the politics frogs. Yeah, I mean, principal leftist doesn't justify national crackdown of the left. Of course not. Of course it doesn't fucking justify that. Stop trying to be specific anatomically. Okay, shut up. I always say it wrong. It's carotid, right? Carotid artery. Carotid. Carotid artery. English is my second language. Shut the fuck up. Carotid. Anyway, whatever. That doesn't matter. Let's get back to it. Charlie Kirk suspect appeared to confess to murder on Discord, sources say. Here's the
developments
additional
in the
reporting
investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination. CBS News has confirmed a Washington Post report that the suspect, Tyler Robinson, appeared to confess in an online group chat just before his arrest. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in to host an episode of Kirk's podcast, urging Trump supporters to report and call out anyone celebrating Kirk's death. Carter Evans is covering all this from the courthouse in Utah. Carter, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. The alleged shooter is expected to make a virtual appearance in court from jail when those charges are filed today. And as a possible preview of what's to come, a probable cause affidavit listed aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, and obstruction of justice as reasons for his arrest last week.
There was evidence, DNA evidence.
FBI Director Kash Patel said Monday DNA evidence found on a screwdriver at the scene of the shooting and on a towel wrapped around the alleged murder weapon had now been linked to the suspect. Patel added his agency is reviewing the alleged gunman's online activity and cell phone data.
He had a text message exchange, he, the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
Why didn't that person say something?
I think you were saying that there's no evidence that the shooter is woke unless you can see that being pro-gay is woke. Yes. And that is the case for many people on the right, especially in this administration, because this administration is so fucking brain broken that they think like Mitt Romney is a pussy. You know what I mean? Like the modern Republican movement, or at least like the National Republican Party, and the way that they communicate certain issues implies that like if you're fucking pro-gay or pro-trans, you are woke. You are literally Antifa. You're trans Antifa. You're Trantifa. Okay? That's the way they see it. That's precisely the reason why they're designing this as a story about left radicalization. A story about left radicalization and a shooter engaging in this like incredibly leftist act of super violence. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah, trends de Antifa, like Trendaragua.
You know, our investigation is ongoing. That's a great question.
A Discord spokesman and 2 law enforcement sources told CBS News an account appearing to belong to the suspect claimed responsibility for the shooting in a group chat around 2 hours before his arrest last Thursday, writing in part, quote, "It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all this." The messages were first reported by the Washington Post. Discord has said it hasn't found any evidence that the suspect planned Kirk's assassination on the platform. While no motive has been identified, the FBI director said the suspect's family and friends told investigators he subscribed to a left-wing ideology.
We have to talk about this incredibly destructive movement of left-wing extremism that has grown up over the last few years, and I believe is part of the reason why Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet.
Posting his
Yeah, this part was also, again, super nutty. This part is as big as a story as the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and yet liberals seemingly are fucking falling asleep at the wheel once again, whether it be the Ezra Kleins of the world at the New York Times or people who are, authoring articles in liberal institutions and mainstream liberal institutions, or whether it be the Democratic Party broadly. This is an abject lie. The notion that like left radicalization has become an amount of right-wing political violence in this goddamn country. There's so much evidence to this reality. There's evidence from independent studies that have been conducted. There's evidence from the Department of Justice itself that conducted its own investigation that showed once again that white supremacists, white nationalists, white far-right anti-government extremists are responsible for the large share of crimes, political crimes, and domestic violence incidents, like domestic terror incidents in this country, okay? The only thing they can hold on to is this notion that Democrats and liberals broadly have a higher percentage of acceptance for political violence as opposed to the right. And I described to you why that is the case, because of the way that we perceive violence in this country. We perceive violence as not violence directed by the state towards marginalized groups, but instead someone engaging in the act of resistance against those violent structures. That is the reason why people who are on the liberal side can sometimes say, yeah, like there's a level of political violence that can happen in the process that that I wouldn't worry about, I wouldn't have an issue with. Whereas Republicans don't ever have to dream of a world where they have to engage in anti-state violence, because the state itself in a liberal capitalist dystopia is always reflecting on their violent desires anyway. It's already designed around doing harm and doing violence to these out groups, whether they be undocumented, whether they be trans, whether they be fucking black or brown people. That's violence in and of itself, but that's not perceived as violence broadly. Understand? Will you ever have an opinion? Will you ever have an other opinion, even if it doesn't fit your agenda? Wait, what? What the fuck what is this demand? What does that even mean? Why won't you change your entire worldview that's built around empathy? Why do you want me to be inconsistent? I demand you become inconsistent and lose sight of your moral compass. Hey, bro, have you tried if you wanted to present me as a dishonest actor, okay, even though I wasn't live, like my opinions early on were known about the shooter's possible ideological tendencies. And it seems like my speculation reviewing all of the readily available information at the time came true, that he wasn't a groyper. I didn't lean into that narrative, even though that narrative took root and a lot of liberals actually ran with it and a lot of leftists actually ran with it as well. And they ran with it so much that even the Republican side actually agreed on that front to a certain degree. And they actually scaled back their demands for civil war quite a bit. Of course, the administration didn't stop. The administration didn't scale back. They were just like, we don't give a fuck what the shooter's profile is. We're still going to fucking go after the left.
Friends podcast late Monday, Vice President J.D. Vance vowed to prevent what he called festering violence on the far left. And appearing as a guest, President Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, argued Kirk's death was the result of an organized campaign of terrorist networks, though he offered no evidence to support that claim.
We are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people.
Now, for now, investigators say the suspected shooter is believed to have acted alone, and we're expecting to learn more about that later today in court. Also today, FBI Director Kash Patel is expected to face questions about his agency's handling of the case when he testifies on Capitol Hill. Nate?
Carter, thank you.
We begin with Garrett Tenney live at the Utah County Jail in Spanish Fort with all the breaking details on this investigation. Hi, Garrett.
Carly, good morning to you. We have learned that the suspect told at least several individuals that he was planning to assassinate Charlie Kirk. In one of those instances, it was in a note he left for his romantic partner. In another, it was a text message to a separate individual. Neither person has been charged, but they could be down the road as the investigation continues. Here,
like another narrative that's like flinging around online that I also did not subscribe to is the notion that this was like an Israel hit, right? The reason why I said that, it was most likely not Israel, even though I fucking hate Israel. I'm the #1 hater of Israel, right? The reason why I said that is because like it just didn't make sense that Charlie Kirk was like about to turn on Israel any moment now, right? That narrative is huge, just not in your bubble. No, it's in my bubble too. What are you talking about? No, I know. It's a massive narrative. It's one that is like far-reaching. It's one that people believe on, I would say, like the anti-Zionist side. That isn't anti-Semitic, like the critics of Israel side have also grabbed onto this narrative. It's also a narrative that many far-right figures and like right-wing figures also believe as well. That's definitely something that a lot of people are grabbing onto. What about the right wing saying he turned down? That part is probably true. I mean, Charlie Kirk was funded by Israel. Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA was funded by pro-Israel groups and pro-Israel donors. That is absolutely correct. And I would never in a million years say that, like, when you are getting funded by Israel, that you're not going to get some fucking arrogant, entitled-ass phone calls from some of the most annoying dipshits on the fucking planet for even daring to have, like, comic Dave Smith on stage at a Turning Point USA event. None of that means that Charlie Kirk was going to publicly turn on Israel, though, because Charlie Kirk was always going to stand by Donald Trump. A lot of people just don't understand that. And people on the right don't understand that. People on the right don't actually believe that I guess Donald Trump is super pro-Israel for some fucking weird reason, because it's like a cult, even if they themselves are anti-Israel, you know? Devil's advocate, because I agree, but couldn't you just argue that Israel might not have wanted to risk the chance that he could turn even if he didn't intend to? No. Like, when Israel... I mean, look, as someone who has been pursued, okay, by the state of Israel, I have a lot of up close and matter. And let me tell you, when Israel wants to fuck with you, especially if you're a political commentary person on the left, especially if you're like a visible public person in the Western world, okay, then you just making shit up. No, I'm telling you exactly how it works. There are a network of sophisticated propaganda and influence peddling operations that Israel can, on a whim, decide to deploy against you. It's more so bot farms and reputation smearing, okay? There are a million different things that they could do before they arrive at, you know, this assassination. But that also, once again, does not make sense because does not make quite a bit of sense because, like, the notion that Charlie Kirk was going to publicly turn on Israel is ridiculous. Your Uncle Cenk on TYT thinks because he was turning against Israel too. Yes, a lot of people think that, and I don't know where they're coming from with this. I mean, I understand. I have no reason to believe that the gray zone reporting is incorrect. It has been confirmed by Candace Owens as well. The notion that, like, that Charlie Kirk, here's the Israel narrative. We covered it extensively yesterday, but I'll give you a quick summarization. Okay? Gray Zone reported, Blumenthal at Gray Zone reported that Charlie Kirk had a secret Hamptons meeting with Bill Ackman and two of the Babylon Bee guys. Okay, there were some other people that were also there. That meeting took place in the Hamptons, and the meeting was about, and Tucker Carlson too, sorry. I think Tucker Carlson was also there potentially. But that meeting took place, and the contents of the meeting was twofold. One, first, we're going to give you money. We're going to give you more money, but we want something in return. And two, when Charlie Kirk refused to take the money and felt like he was pressured, felt like he was being blackmailed, okay, they turned around and stated, they basically like had a mean conversation, right? They had a mean conversation with Charlie Kirk. They were probably very short with him, very arrogant. That's just classic. If you've ever had a conversation with someone who's super pro-Israel, whether they're American or Israeli, you get that vibe. They behave in this incredibly entitled, incredibly arrogant manner that is impossible to contend with if you are just like encountering the issue as an outsider for the first time, where you're like, what the fuck do you mean? What is this expectation, right? So do I believe that Charlie Kirk went and had like a bunch of mean conversations with pro-Israel envoys because he dared to sidestep even a little bit from the unshakable pro-Israel position that he is supposed to maintain? Because Israel, when they give you money, they demand a return on that investment, and that demand is unconditional loyalty, okay? Unconditional loyalty to Israel. So the very fact that he had Dave Smith on the Turning Point Conference, the very fact that he had Tucker Carlson on the Turning Point Conference was enough for these pro-Israel groups to fucking lose their minds and be like, what the fuck are you doing? How dare you have these guys on your conference? Like, how dare you give them any fucking breathing room, any space whatsoever? I believe all of that. And Charlie Kirk's own public statements when he was talking to Charlie Kirk's very own public statements when he was talking to what's her face, the lady Megyn Kelly, also shows that he was very frustrated. He was pissed off that, like, regardless of his public facing unconditional loyalty to Israel, these motherfuckers were yelling at him for managing the messaging to the best of his ability, trying to keep the party's base together, because that's what Turning Point USA does, right? That's what his goal was. His goal was to at least maintain some semblance of credibility by recognizing the discontent, especially amongst Gen Z Republicans, and make it seem as though TPUSA at least had like room for more discourse on this issue in an effort not to lose them to the likes of, for example, people who are very anti-Israel and also anti-Semitic, like the Groypers, okay? All of that stuff can be true, while Charlie Kirk would still not turn on Israel publicly. And the reason why I say that is because Charlie Kirk is a regime guy, okay? Charlie Kirk is Donald Trump's very own propaganda minister, okay? And therefore, as Donald Trump's propaganda minister, as long as Donald Trump wasn't going to turn on Israel, Charlie was never going to turn on Israel publicly either. Okay? It's that simple.
Here's FBI Director Kash Patel describing one of those messages last night on Hannity.
We've collected information where, through witness interviews from the FBI and local law enforcement, that he essentially
Why is it so crazy to think his best friend was literally saying he started to have a change of heart? Remember that one interview your uncle did with that Mossad guy? Yes, I do remember that. Guys, I am very tuned in, okay? I am very tapped into this shit. I am telling you, someone like Charlie Kirk, their own personal convictions or their own personal distaste does not matter with respect to their public output, okay? Jeffrey Epstein is a great example of this. He leaned into the Jeffrey Epstein stuff with the Bill Clinton connection for a very long time, okay? And then when he got the boss call, this is how he responded.
Talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine. Honestly, I'm done talking.
Charlie Kirk in the past had talked about Jeffrey Epstein potentially being connected to Mossad, for example. A lot of people keep pointing to that to say, oh, he was starting to go on his journey, a change of heart. An honest change of heart on Israel for a guy like Charlie Kirk doesn't mean that his output was going to change. His public output was going to change. I can totally see him refusing to take $150 million from Bill A. Packman, specifically because he doesn't want that level of control over Turning Point USA. I can totally see him being frustrated by the demands that Zionist groups were making to Charlie Kirk about how he gets to manage his pro-Israel slant, okay? Especially at this point where he has enough evidence of his success in terms of communicating on these sorts of issues. So obviously, from his perspective, he's like, what the fuck do you mean? I know what I'm doing. You guys have a real bad messaging problem. Just don't fucking interfere in my affairs. Like when I saw the Megyn Kelly conversation that he had, it almost felt like he was angry because they were just like fucking attacking him relentlessly because he understood the discontent that a lot of Gen Z Republicans felt towards Israel and how that was actually hemorrhaging support away from Trump even and putting them at the mercy of the likes of Nick Fuentes, who he obviously saw as a major villain, who he obviously saw as a real threat to what he was trying to do, right? But the reason why I keep bringing back the Jeffrey Epstein thing is to show you that regardless of Charlie Kirk's personal opinions, regardless of his distaste for Israeli envoys or demands Zionists were making from him, it doesn't change his public persona and his public output one bit, because he is ride or die for the admin. He is ride or die for Trump. Unless Trump was going to turn on Israel, Charlie Kirk was not going to turn on Israel on his own.
Admit it. After the shooting and assassination of Charlie Kirk, the suspect admitted to it. But I will say what was found in terms of information, a text message exchange where the suspect specifically stated that he had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do that. And when he was asked why, he said some hatred cannot be negotiated with.
The alleged assassin was an avid gamer and very active on Discord, which is a popular messaging platform used by a lot of gamers. We've learned that shortly before the 22-year-old turned himself in, he confessed to assassinating Charlie Kirk in a group chat on Discord. In messages obtained by the Washington Post, he wrote, "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've been all amazing. Thank you all for everything." We also know just hours before those messages, in a different chat group, the alleged assassin was joking with friends who said he looked really similar to the man the FBI was searching for. Here's Kash Patel on Fox and Friends describing how those chat groups are factoring into this investigation.
Oh my God.
People think we can just get in these group chats and immediately find out who's in them. And there are scores of people in this Discord chat room. But we have to effectuate legal process. We have to go out there with search warrants so that if prosecutors want to later use this evidence, it's not tainted by being illegally obtained.
The accused killer is expected to be formally charged today, and those charges are expected to include aggravated murder, which does bring the possibility of the death penalty. And in Utah, that can either be by lethal injection or by firing squad. Carly?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Garrett Tenney, live for us in Spanish Fork, Utah. Garrett, we will be watching. Thank you so much. Let's bring in former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker. Chris, thanks for joining us. We learned a whole lot yesterday, and almost all of it had to do with this alleged assassin's digital footprint, messages that he sent beforehand saying that he was going to commit this crime, and apparently messages that he sent afterwards admitting to it. So how are investigators going to be using these messages to build their case?
Well, it'll be a very important part of their case. I mean, this is shaping up to be a very, very strong case. You have all the forensic evidence that's been piling up. You have these statements in the gaming chat room, if you will. The FBI has been gathering all this evidence in, as well as the other investigative agencies. And it really...
There's something so crazy about having to listen to fucking boomers talk about an issue that we all know a lot better than they do. Like the way that they're describing this stuff, you would think is like this incredibly scary thing, you know? Oh, they're doing talks in the chat rooms, gaming chat rooms, you know? George Zinn, elderly rabble rouser who falsely claimed he shot Charlie Kirk, is hit with child pornography charges. Oh my God. I don't know what the fuck to say no more, man. What evidence did he send his plans before the killing? Oh, there is no evidence that he sent his plans before the killing. The only thing that they have is that he wrote a note and hid it under the keyboard of his roommate / partner, and then told them in a private conversation that was revealed in the preliminary investigation to check under the keyboard, which implies that they had no fucking clue what was going on. Are you going to be at ArabCon 2025? No, I will not be.
It does paint a picture. So you knit all that together for a prosecution, and there just aren't a whole lot of defenses to this type of evidence. What I think Kesh Patel was correct. What people wonder, why isn't the FBI in these chat rooms monitoring things that are going on? It's just not that easy. They need.
Yeah, they are. The problem here isn't whether or not this dude was like a leftist or not. Even if this dude was like, I'm right wing and I'm a neo-Nazi and I shot Charlie Kirk because I'm a neo-Nazi, the administration was still going to go along with this person is a radical far left individual, and that's the reason why we have to dismantle the Democratic Party. Like, that's what they're doing. That's what they're going with. That's what they said before they knew anything about the shooter. So, convincing my left-wing former close friends on Facebook that Charlie Kirk wasn't a Nazi or a fascist is completely futile because I can't even convince them I'm not a Nazi or fascist, and many have known me since early grade school. Yeah, I wonder why.
A tip or a lead from a member of the chat room or a member of the public that's had access, because they can't just go willy-nilly surfing through all these social media sites and chat rooms and gaming sites. There are DOJ guidelines and FBI guidelines and constitutional guidelines that prohibit that.
But Chris, now that we have those guidelines and those requirements met, the FBI is combing through the digital footprint, not just of the alleged assassin, but those with whom he communicated. So, Chris.
Yeah, see, they didn't get enough. All of this stuff is because they didn't get enough. I'm telling you right now, they are doing at the right-wing media outlets are looking at the situation and seeing exactly what we're all seeing, which is not enough evidence for like the trans Antifa narrative, right? Which is why they're trying to build this media profile that these Discord group chats were not just like a bunch of fucking Mormon gamers in Utah that have nothing to do with it, but instead we're actually secretly planning out a hit. These are like gay furries and transgender Antifa soldiers that were ultra militant, And the reason why they're trying to build this narrative, obviously, is the exact same reason why like Elon Musk and every other fucking right-wing person, including Nick Fuentes and all of these like groypers online, have been actively demanding that the administration muzzle any and every left or liberal figure that's out there. It's because they want to use Charlie Kirk's death as an opportunity to dismantle and destroy any sort of political dissidence that could take place in the country. Okay? But because they don't have enough evidence, to present this as like a radical Antifa thing, which, by the way, even if he was a radical Antifa thing, the notion that the administration should be able to tackle all left organizing is still insane, for the record. I need you to understand. Like, that's completely unacceptable. That's completely fucking ridiculous. Like, even if the shooter was just straight up like a Maoist third worldist or like a DSA guy, the fuck do you mean you're going to dismantle every person with an opinion where, you should let trans people live? I think you're being crazy. You're being violent. Like, that's insane, right? That's fascism. But it's clear to me that is their goal. And it's clear to me that it doesn't matter if there's enough evidence to suggest that. They're just going to present it as such and continue going along with this narrative. And the worst thing that could have possibly happened to the national right-wing movement on this is the initial response from the right that scaled back when they found out he was from good stock as a white kid from Utah from a good right-wing MAGA family, and then the subsequent investigations into what a groyper actually is. Because those narratives took hold, and it actually had lasting impact. A lot of people believe that now.
To me, the real question at this point is what charges could this possible extended network face if they are found to have radicalized Tyler Robinson into killing Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, it opens up the possibility of a conspiracy type of charge. That's going to be very difficult. This type of charge is very difficult if it's encouragement or passive, just listening to the information and not reporting it to law enforcement. That's a tough one. But that's something that I'm sure they're looking at very hard. If it's after the fact and they didn't say anything, that's one thing. Maybe accessory after the fact. If they were privy to pre-planning and information that would have helped help law enforcement intervene and prevent this, then it starts to get a little bit stronger. So I think it remains to be seen here. It could be a stretch, but let's see what happens. I think they have a better chance of doing that type of case in federal court.
So one of the charges he is currently facing, it could change later today, but one of the charges he was arrested on is aggravated murder. And you heard Garrett say that does meet the criteria for the death penalty in Utah. Do you see that is where this case is going?
Absolutely. I mean, that's been mentioned in press conferences. It's been, the governor made it a specific point to mention that. And I think that's one of the reasons that, the state charge is much stronger, is they want to leave that death penalty on the table. There is a federal death penalty, but it's a little bit more difficult. So, and Utah has had executions in the not too recent past. So it's up there for and I would not be surprised at all to see the death penalty enhancement in the indictment itself.
And some notes on what people can expect later today. FBI Director Kash Patel set to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's going to obviously face questions on this probe. There's also going to be an appearance by this suspect, 5 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be virtually streamed from the Utah County Jail. There's also going to be a press conference held at 2 p.m. Eastern time to talk about the charges filed in this case. So we will be watching all of it as it unfolds.
Or wait, no, not this. There's another court hearing that will be televised as well.